the Wildlife Observer Network.
Oh, wow. Wow, this is great. I'm glad we could finally do this.
Yeah, this is wonderful.
So, Tony, what are we up to?
We're recording the first episode of Brothers in Birding.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And it is my understanding that this is part of a larger podcast network.
Yes, this is part of the Wildlife Observer Network. And so everybody's feed, if you've been following the Urban Wildlife Podcast, you'll be getting a lot of first episodes, and I'll be in all of them, I think. Eventually, I'd like to be less in everyone and have other people be more, but I'm the kind of guy who got the idea to do this, to have everybody together. And so basically around a bunch of my friends with big personalities, and we're trying to expand the content. Urban Wildlife Podcast was great. We did it for about 4 or 5 years, and it will continue. But we figured we started out something very narrow, and there's a lot more wildlife content out there. And I mean, I had friends of mine who told me that they would listen to hunting podcasts, and they weren't hunters just because they were out in the field and they were talking about wildlife. And hunters, a lot of people who aren't hunters and don't like what hunters do may not understand this, but hunters genuinely do love wildlife, even the ones they are hunting. And so it got me thinking, like, well, there needs to be more content about wildlife in general. Although this is a birding podcast specifically, but there's a lot of I think there's a need for more wildlife content, and I'm here to provide that or to facilitate that. So I'm going to start by providing it, and then hopefully move to more facilitating it. But one of the ideas is our podcast. So I think you and I, we have a different perspective than a lot of birders do. Although I think the people who are making birding podcasts tend to be, I think their bread is buttered on the unusual side anyway, to have the idea to do a podcast, But I think also we have a pretty cool, unique friendship.
Yes, we do.
And
it's quite the origin story, quite the story.
Yeah. So I think that between the two of us, we could, and we're not here just to be like, we're a little bit different than the average birder. We're going to like talk about it, and only talk about that. No, I want to just talk about birding and subjects that come up in birding and the hobby. We want to discuss new articles when they come out, controversies if there are, new species being discovered, everything, and just what we've been up to. So I think this is, this will serve as an intro episode. But moving forward, we would also like a lot of interaction with our listeners, or I guess viewers as well. Like if people want to say, hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And like that would be great. So I think let's go forward with the intros. Let's talk about you and me, and what you have in mind for this, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I really like that. I'm really glad you laid it out that way too, Tony. And I like that, and I think our viewers are also going to like the fact that birding is like that central theme to a lot of this, because my story in birding started as kind of a tangent from what I thought I was doing, but really that was kind of the element that centralized me in conservation and caring about things in general. And then with you and birding, that has a huge central role in a lot of the big things that you've done, and even some of the little things. And I think those are great stories that we can share. And on another point, like I think in pop culture, birding has really opened into a new chapter. Obviously, with the aid of social media and how much that has propagated social norms, but just people's attention to say, like, from bird photography to talking about the photographer, and then talking about the weird life of similar photographers. And then you see this painting of a culture in media that I think is still very malleable, and something that's really exciting. So I'm glad that we get to do this together and be a part of that.
Absolutely. So, shall we proceed with origin stories? You are my junior.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I'm a little younger. I know.
We got age and beauty before old and haggard.
Indeed. I believe it was my senior year of high school in my AP environmental science or studies. I think it was science. I think it was environmental science class. And Tony, as well as Dan Cubza, well, he'll make an appearance. He'll say hi, I'm sure. Came in and talked about this program that was happening at an environmental center in the general neighborhood. It was in West Philly, but we were in Southwest. But a lot of people lived in that area of Southwest Philly. And the gig, as my brief understanding was, you'll be a trained environmental educator. You'll be a trained park steward, a trained park guide, where you'll learn about the natural and Philadelphia history at this park. And I was like, well, I'm back in Philly from traveling across the U.S. and I thought this was a really great opportunity for me to get to know my neighborhood, and it would be my first job, and money is nice, so I signed up for it, and that's how we met.
And how has birding? How you now work in the industry?
Yes, I am now in the environmental advocacy industry at an organization that focuses on birds.
Yeah, moving forward, we're gonna be vague about our jobs, is because we both work in the field, and after my experience recently with a group of extremist animal rights activists who like to subsidize outdoor cats, and they're militant about it, and just for expressing I think generally wildlife biology, conservation biology best practices on how outdoor cats should be handled. They actually went and tried to get me fired from my job. And so that's so I'll just be vague. I run an environmental center, and if I'm not going to say for what entity. Moving forward, you could probably find out if you want to, but I wanted to make it abundantly clear that my views are not of the organization I work for, just like Tykee's are not for the organization he works for, but we both work in the field. So,
yes, absolutely. I'm really glad you said that, because I think it's pretty easy to find out what I work for. My social media, I'm easy to find, and just to reiterate what Tony said, my opinions are my own, and I happily speak for myself.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that will be some of the vagueness of the story, where I won't, where we won't say exact names of things. But it still is very special when we're there, and it's nice to have a sense of nostalgia for me with birding and being a first-time birder, because I remember the first assignment you gave me, or gave the cohort. So that too, I was one of maybe 6 or 7 students that signed up as well, a part of this cohort, and it was our first assignment. He gave us a bird to study, get all the 7 basics informations. What was it? The principles of identification of the bird. And these are birds that we could see around where the park where we were. And I got kingfisher. And I remember I got that assignment that week, and then the next week I saw the bird. And I was like, oh, wow, I studied it, and now it's there. Okay, that's it was a really cool, you don't get that, I don't think, in the classroom very often, but it's very rare that you can get that on an outdoor classroom kind of thing.
Well, it's funny because that's my spark bird as well.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so I went to an environmental center in Philadelphia when I was in Cub Scouts rather. And my father took me there. I grew up hunting and fishing. I'm from the city, but I'm from I jokingly call myself how I grew up row house rednecks, where we're from. It's interesting. We're from the city, but we grew up hunting and fishing, camping a lot. And so it's weird how there's a lot of and I guess it's a holdover for being working class. Like there's a lot of out, even though in Pennsylvania it's a giant. Well, it's not. It's funny. It's actually one of the technically in the smaller half of the states, but it's a, it's America. It's a big country, so it's still a big area, and 60% of it's still in forest. And he just took a snapshot. It's really funny. So I think it's part of growing up in Pennsylvania, part of growing up working class. I would have said before, like, maybe it's like a white working class thing. But Mustafa, remember him from, he grew up bow hunting and whatnot too. And so like, it's part of like, it's interesting. A lot of people are like, oh, you're from the city. How'd you get in nature? Or they won't assume I'm not from the city. They assume that like I came from the suburbs. But anyway, so my dad took me. So I went hunting, fishing, camping, and I loved it. Don't get me wrong. And I was reading Ranger Rick or have Ranger Rick read to me. But it wasn't until I went to this environmental center
having Ranger Rick read to me. I just like that sentence.
And hearing about a kingfisher and the story. Pete, who still works there now, he's not my colleague. We're now parallel. We have the same rank. In our
represent.
Yeah,
started from the bottom.
I know, it's funny, and so we both run different facilities for the same overall agency. So he told me a story about kingfisher and how Native Americans apparently would tie them in their hair, and it would make them arrow proof, I guess, and so I was like, I guess he would have got him from they make barrels, right? I guess he would have got him in the barrels because if you could shoot one, if you got one by shooting it, it seems ironic that it would therefore make you like arrow proof or like you couldn't get shot. But these birds fly really fast. And so I can understand why the idea was that they were hard to catch.
Yeah.
So I guess it would get them at their nest burrow. Anyway, so the idea was you tie them in their hair and they would make them, they couldn't catch them. You couldn't be caught if you had one tied in your hair. And so I assumed it was like, in a part of the country or part of the world where, it was like an exotic thing. And he's like, no, you can see them right here in the park. So I asked my dad and I was like, can we go see it? And the next week we went and we saw it. And that was my dad and I both sparkbird because it was the first time I went birding. And the first time he went birding, he went on to be the friends of that park. Philly's blessed with a very large park system, and he was the president of that park, and I was I went on to do my thing. So it was very influential.
Can you tell me a little more about your sparkbird?
Yeah, well, it's our sparkbird, right? And my dad's too.
Yeah.
So it's belted kingfisher is a. A lot of people think it looks like a blue jay with a giant beak. So it has, it's blue and like white underneath has a band across the chest. That's why they call it belted. The females have a rusty band as well. Has a crest. It doesn't have a long tail like a blue jay, but it's like, it's blue. It has a crest and kind of like a mohawk, and it plunges, head first into water for fish. And you can see them all throughout the North America. And into Central America, and
wait, are kingfishers kookaburras?
So kookaburra is a species of kingfisher, yes.
Okay.
So in kingfishers live everywhere but Antarctica, essentially, and they get subarctic. They don't get too far into the Arctic regions, but they do get pretty far north. But they're mostly in Asia and Africa. They have an incredible diversity, and there's a lot that are live in like uplands. They don't actually live anywhere near water, and they eat insects and reptiles and amphibians. So like a kookaburra is just a kingfisher that forages in like forests and like woodlands and doesn't do that plunging into water for fish. So it is a species of kingfisher, and so there's a Laughing Kookaburra, which is in Australia, and I believe it gets a little bit in New Zealand. And then there's the blue-winged kookaburra, and then there's the shovel-billed kookaburra, and I think the hook-billed kookaburra. There might be another one as well. I can find out.
Yeah. I'm sure you have a few books back there that can help us figure that out. I wonder which one he's going to go for. It's probably going to be a book about birds. I guarantee it's a book about birds.
So, I've been kind of on a time kick lately. You know, like Morris Day in the Time.
Okay.
You've seen Purple Rain, right?
Yes. The movie.
Yeah. So the villain in Purple Rain is Morris Day from Morris Day in the Time.
Oh, I'm going to take your word for it. I don't remember that specifically. It's been a little while.
So their big hit is Jungle Love. You know that song? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, yo, think I want to know you. You know that song? He's like,
I'm going to put it on my Spotify about that.
Yeah. So The Time was a band that Prince, on the first 1 or 2 Time records, Prince played every instrument and Morris Day just sang. Mm-hmm. And he's credited under a different name, and he actually Prince even owned the name of the Time. Yeah, that's their big hit, and the funny thing is Morris Day, the singer, he didn't want to sing. He was the drummer. He was Prince's drummer for his Grand Central, his first band, and then he moved, and then when Prince started the revolution, he came back and wanted to take was it Jimmy Z or whatever the drummer Prince's job, and he's like, nope, but basically, like, why don't we start a different band and you'll be in that one? And then they couldn't really figure out who the singer was. So Prince was like, why don't you sing? So he sang. Wow. So but anyway, that song, their big hit, Jungle Love, it starts out, he goes, ooh, 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 ah, 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 which is the he's basically doing the Kookaburra sound. So in lots of movies, whenever they show someone in a jungle, they always play a Kookaburra.
I thought that was a monkey this entire time. Wow, that's crazy.
Well,
okay.
Maybe he's doing the monkey in Jungle, but I think it's.
This is a strong theory that it's Kookaburra.
Well, the noise you hear in why don't we can just play it? I was funny. There's a Kookaburra song, like an actual song about a Kookaburra. So,
oh wow,
yeah. So I gotta actually.
Wow, this Kookaburra talking point really got interesting.
Oh man, it's a song. So how do I search for just the call? Oh man, I think I know what I'm gonna do.
What are you gonna do? What's your plan?
I'm gonna download my app from Australia back to my phone, and then we will I'll download my app. So we'll have to talk a little bit. Let's keep as I do this.
Okay. Well, I wanted to ask you because now I think that if you didn't, or if I didn't know this specifically from you, I don't think I would have known this at all. But in general, with birds, male and female sexual dimorphism, you'll see that males will have like the extra thing, whether it's the vibrant color, the belt, the scarlet thing, like the male will have it and the female won't. Do you know why the female kingfisher has the belt and the male does not?
I honestly do not know in this case.
Wow, I never knew that either.
So, yeah, so I don't know why that's the case for kookaburras. For things like phalaropes, which are the strange shorebirds that swim rather than just walk. They actually swim, and they swim in circles, and they eat zooplankton. The males actually tend the young and not the females. So the parrot that tends the young tends to be the duller colored because they want to be camouflaged.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why they do that reverse dimorphism. But wow. I wonder if kingfishers is.
Yeah, I was asking. It's not that same question. Like, do kingfishers, are they the ones that care, or the males the ones that care for the nest?
No, they both do, if I'm not mistaken. And they and I don't think all of them are. I think most of them are not dimorphic. So I think belted kingfishers are unusual in that respect. So
what book are you looking in right now?
Birds of New Guinea.
Nice.
Because there's more. There's only 2 kookaburras in Australia, there's the laughing and the blue winged, and the laughing is goes all the way down to like the south of Australia, and then goes all the way far north, and then the laughing is only in the so the blue winged only in the far northeast. So, but I think I'm not sure if the laughing gets into New Guinea or not. A lot of birds in Australia actually are shared with New Guinea. So, no, it doesn't look like it is. It looks like blue wing does, which makes sense, but not laughing. So there's rufous-bellied kookaburra, shovel-billed kookaburra, blue-winged, sprangled, and hook-billed. And most of them, and then there's, of course, laughing. So there's things they call kookaburra, 1, 2, 3, 6. And hook-billed kingfisher, sometimes it's called kingfisher, not necessarily kookaburra. But, so there we go.
Thank you.
And let's see if I have the app downloaded so we can hear the kookaburra sound.
And I want the audience to know this is why it's important to have a spark bird, because then you have a friend for life.
Yeah.
That's the lesson of the day. Take that away, everybody. So
let's get this. You know what? I'll play I don't think we'll get if we just play a minute of the time song. I don't think we'll
get copyright.
Yeah.
Well, I know a few YouTube channels that have resources about copyright material, and I think we'll be fine. This entire time, I thought that those were monkeys. Wow.
Now, let's see if let's get the time and see if we'll do the. So I guess I have to download it real quick.
Yeah.
It's funny. I used to own the time on vinyl, but now now I don't because I sold all my records. I used to have 1,500 records.
Really?
Yeah.
1,500?
1,500. Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it was insane. I had. Yeah. So.
Man, I don't even have like a comparison for how much that is. That's a record.
I have friends that have entire, like multiple rooms of their houses that have records. I had a friend that he bought 4,000 records in one shot, and like
wow.
And he said he like it affected his social life because he wasn't able to move around his house.
I mean, I have a friend who sold over 1 million records.
So, I assume they're of one record.
Yeah. A Spotify friend of mine.
Nice.
I don't know if I should give him a shout out. I think I should. But either way, that's plenty of records. You have I would say a pretty good encyclopedic knowledge of pop culture references and how they relate to birds. But yeah. I was gonna say how they relate to birds. I think you have a strong point, or wildlife or something, or I think you have a strong point in that connection. Just like you told me about, like you went from the kookaburra to the jungle and Prince, like it's crazy.
Okay, so we got this. Now let's see if you think this is what he's going with.
Oh wow! Wow, man, that's definitely a kookaburra, right?
Yeah, and you know what else? You know what their other big hit is? The bird.
Aha!
And it's like, America, have you heard? Brand new dance. It's called the bird.
Hey.
Wah! Hallelujah. Whoa. It's like this whole thing. Yeah.
Oh wow, jeez.
And the crazy thing is those songs, Jungle Love and the Bird, like Prince wrote those songs. Like Morris Day helped, but Prince wrote those songs. Like so, like I think the time was like Prince was like, I need an outlet for my goofy side, so I'll just do the time.
Wow.
And the time is famous for so Morris Day had like a valet, like
that makes sense. It rhymes.
yeah. So like in the old sense of not the guy that parks your car, the guy that helps you get dressed and like done up, like if you've watched Downton Abbey, yeah, like Mr. Bates is Lord Grantham's valet, and so valet helps you get dressed. It basically just takes care of your appearance. So Morris Day has a valet named Jerome, and like while he's playing, and they always do it in Jungle Love. He goes, "Somebody bring me a mirror," and then Jerome comes out with a mirror, and Morris Day like fixes his hair and like does his eye, and then they do this like dance routine for like 10 seconds afterwards. It's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I can tell that the references we'll make will definitely jump between two demographics. I think, like, what is it? Gen X, African Americans will probably get that older Gen X.
And we got,
young boomers, maybe some young boomers out there are listening.
We got Robin too, who.
Oh yeah.
I got a whole bunch of these. They're gonna put around the studio.
Yeah.
So Robin has a lot of as he's a lot younger. So I mean, I'm 43 and you're 26.
Yeah, I'm turning 26 Tuesday.
Right. So and Robin is I think 33. So we definitely have like
wow. We have like a nice little split generationally.
Billy
also with life experiences too.
Yeah. Billy's a little bit older than me. No, Billy and I. No, sorry, Bill and I are exactly the same age. I think we're months apart. I forget who's older. So I'm trying to think of anybody else who's who's going to be part of this network regularly.
Philip.
Who's that?
Philip. He's new.
Phil is 37, I think.
Okay, that's a prime number. In case
I don't think anyone's older than me. I don't think anyone's younger than you either.
Wow, so we're the range.
Yeah.
Nice. Wow, look at that. I know if I could, so that would make you the pro tempore of the Senate, and I forgot what my name would be.
Well,
if I
Dan,
or no, you're the dean of the Senate.
Dan is 50, and another one of the podcasts I want to do is like a gear review. And so I have this idea for the gear reviews, right? Mike McKee, who's one of my fellow groomsmen, as Tykee was, works at Broad Street Ministry in Philadelphia, and they do a lot of direct service to the homeless. They provide mailboxes. There's a cafe, but it's a cafe they can hang out all night. So if it's too cold, they can go there. They get clothes so they can try to get jobs. In fact, I have a huge donation I'm dropping off. I mean, not huge, but I mean like a giant duffel bag of good stuff, not just old stuff. Like nice Fred Perry and Ben Sherman dress shirts that they're going out of business, and I bought them out, and they don't fit my neck. I have a thick ass neck, so really good stuff. Like, and also just stuff that I don't wear that often, But the idea, so I'm gonna give my idea is, I would love if companies sent us their gear, like shoes, boots and clothing, and we tried it out, and then when we're done with it, we give it to Broad Street Ministry.
I mean, that could work. I mean, I would imagine that we could, that type of deal I've not personally seen, but I've seen from a friend before, is that certain labels or certain marketers will send you stuff for you to keep and do whatever you want with it, but they'll do whatever you want to a certain stipulation. Like they'll expect you to post a picture, or expect you to talk about it, expect you to give it some type of promotion, and then it's yours after that.
Right. And I'm sure we'll wear it for a few weeks or something, and and do that as well, but then we'll pass it on to someone who could really use it.
Yeah, because I'm not a close collector myself. I think I rotate between the same 5 to 13 different outfits.
Yeah.
Still make it look nice, you know.
And Mike is, I already talked about this idea. He's on board. So, I mean, it's more of the whether or not companies will start sending us stuff.
Yeah. It's figuring that out. I mean, that's something that, we're all putting our minds together on. Like, how do we promote ourselves? What's our social media presence and all that? And that's really exciting. I mean, I think you and I probably have the best social media influence.
Yeah, well, actually, that would be Phil. He's like 30-some thousand followers on YouTube because he does a World of Warcraft.
Oh
show.
yeah. Okay, well, hey, yeah. Well, I'm still getting to know Phil, so that's really awesome.
Phil's great, and he actually has a really. I gotta like calm myself down. I talk sometimes too fast and incomplete thoughts, and he's got a really good voice for radio, and he knows a lot about genetics, and which is great because that's a huge part of science these days is genetics. And my thing is, he's a real scientist. I'm not. I'm an applied scientist. Where like I use science in the field and I participate in it, but I'm not driven by questions. And the true scientist is driven by questions, right? And for so many people these days, the answers to those questions take him into a lab to do genetics. Right. And me, I wanted science to be a vehicle to get me into the field. I'm not going to see a harpy eagle or a jaguar or a honey badger in a lab.
Well, I mean, if your lab has that much money that they can create it, maybe.
But to me, it doesn't even matter. Like, because I need to see them in the wild. Right. And science has got, I mean, I've seen polar bears and wolves and and in some, and I've been to South America for science, and I've seen a lot of them, toucans and like
three cans,
yeah. So
all kinds of cans.
That to me is science is, and it keeps. And I work in environmental education, and and that is a field that keeps me outside a lot. So that's you. And you, I mean, you.
I started in environmental ed, and now I would say I'm in environmental advocacy, where maybe you could say that I'm in political science. Maybe. I don't really understand political science. I'm not going to lie. When I was in college, I was studying math and computer science, real science, in my opinion. Maybe liberal arts has sciences. And I don't even know what liberal arts even means. I thought it was just a term that they came up with anything that isn't business or math or engineering is liberal arts. I mean, that could be true. That could not be true. I am very open to the education on that topic.
Yeah, I have strong mixed feelings on liberal arts. We're like, I get it, but my issue with liberal arts is I feel like there's lots of jobs that don't require a college degree that because HR departments, I guess, need things to discern people from. And if you can't, how much can you get from looking at a resume? And if someone is going to work in like a clerical field or is going to work for a nonprofit organization in like a nondescript kind of job, like it's not science heavy or technology heavy, they're like, oh, well, they have a liberal arts degree. And this one doesn't. So like, I think, is that what it's for? And so I feel like so many jobs now like require college degrees for no reason.
Yeah, it's just like, it just says bachelor's degree required, not that you need to have any sort of specificity or technical skill or knowledge or any specialized knowledge within that bachelor's degree. They just want you to have a piece of paper. And, I think that obviously has its outcomes inequitably and just proportionally reflecting poor people and people of color not getting the degree or dropping out early or any other setbacks on top of not having that degree on a resume that can create a huge gap in wealth, in income, and achievement.
Absolutely. I mean, it could be the other thing too. Sometimes if you get someone can get those credentials and then they get a leg up. So it's a way of looking at it as well. Like I have a big problem with these like fake certificates like it's like become there's this thing like a certified Parks and Rec employee. Like I'm like, okay, well you have a job in the park system. Why do you need to get certified? Or like certified wildlife biologist. We're like, okay, well if you work in the field and you have a degree in it, I'm like, and there's like one of the Master Naturalist program, and now the Master Gardener programs are very intensive, and from my undergraduate in horticulture, known in the horticulture community, I think Master Gardener programs are pretty significant. But this Master Naturalist program, it's a fraud. It's there's no standard curriculum. They get people from the industry to volunteer their time, and the idea is that the people have to have these make up. They have to have these volunteer hours. They have to maintain. So the idea is it gets volunteers for organizations, and I get that, and there's some merit to that. The problem is when you're coming up in this field, people will say to you like, "Oh, why don't you do this Master Naturalist program? It'll be it'll look good on you know." And I'm like, "Well, I'm not. Why am I going to spend $400 and tie myself to volunteering when I've already done that and I already have a degree? I already work in the field. I already like." So I've been an instructor for it twice just to like. So I put that on my resume and instructor, which trumps, just being a, whatever. But it's like just it's predicated on the generosity of the people in the field who you are essentially creating competition for.
Right? Yes, I very much see that logic. If someone said that there needs to be some type of birding certificate to be a birder.
Yeah, so now
by any standard, like creating that standard, like what does that even mean? When that can be reflected in so many different ways that you making a standard for it is just going to exclude people or make people uninterested now because you're just like, this is something that I've been doing this whole time. Like because I don't live to your standards, that means I'm not, good at what I do or I haven't been doing what I've been doing. Like what's the point?
Like my job. You literally couldn't even apply for my job unless you click a box that says you have an appropriate degree. You can't even, right? You cannot even apply for it, right? But yeah, I know so many people who would be perfect at my job that don't have that degree. Because like,
wow,
because think about the if you didn't if you went to college at traditional age. Well, look at Matt Halley. He chose sociology.
Yeah. Oh, well, no. Even before sociology, he was a music major doing guitar. And and it's just like, I think that's a beautiful story on how well-rounded a person he is and how, you find your passion in something and it can set your life apart.
He won't do. I want him to do a podcast. I want to do ornithology today with him.
Oh,
and he won't do it. Because he's too critical of other people's papers, and he doesn't want to get a bad reputation in the field.
What do you mean?
And I'm like, well, look, why don't we just pick papers that you like? And he's like, well, I always find something, and I don't want it to just be fluff. And I'm like, so maybe we could get him to do a history, ornithology history. He has some crazy ideas of retracing Wilson's and Audubon's and other steps and whatnot. So but yeah, it's funny. It's like he won't. And he's so charismatic, and he's but he might. But yeah, he had a sociology degree for an undergrad. So but he went back to grad school and now he's about to get a PhD.
And you know what? He published his first scientific report without having a PhD, without having a bachelor's in science. He was traveling abroad and he just understood what the process was. He did do some research, obviously. And I'm not saying that he wasn't knowledgeable. It's just he didn't allow those credentials to decide that he could publish it.
Right.
That wasn't why, he didn't need those things to do it. That's not to say that obviously he's well studied and he was very interested. I think it was about frogs in India or something.
Yeah. You know what's really funny? Is I was at Billy's old apartment. I was, it was a really cool apartment. It was one of those apartments you wouldn't even know you're in an apartment. Because it's
nice.
Other than the fact it's all on one floor, it was big and it would I don't know about not paneling, but it looked kind of old, like a big old study or something. You know what I mean? Kind of lots of wood, and it was really cool. I had a garden on the roof for people. It was a really cool spot. Anyway, so I was in his apartment and I was on the can, and what do? You grab a piece of you grab a something to read, And so I grabbed a journal he had next to his, next to the toilet for other people to do the exact same thing I was doing. And I flipped through it. What do I see? Matt Halley's paper on the different color morphs of Indian frogs he discovered in the Western Ghats.
Wow.
How that was so funny. I was like, yo, check this out.
A classic. He needs to get that framed.
I know, it's funny. But now Billy's house, now he owns a house.
Mm-hmm.
Well, or I guess Gigi owns it, and then he moved in, but now they're married, so I don't know how that works. Anyway, so Gigi's Billy's
mine is
house.
Yours.
Yeah.
You're married. You know how this works.
Yeah.
What's hers is mine.
we bought a house after we were married, so yeah. So they were yeah. So anyway, the Billy Gigi's house, they now have this like Japanese like toilet seat that like has like a built-in bidet and like heated and everything, but it's like actually like it like puts it like puts me like too forward and it's really uncomfortable. I actually go up a floor.
Oh,
But it's like easy, yeah.
Tony with the big old butt.
I do, but donk. Which is like did you notice one of the variations is Billy did it? One of the variations on our one of the social media accounts is actually Tony's badonk.
Yeah.
But good luck anybody who really wants to get to our social media account to figure out.
I mean, some
what letters to replace with numbers and whatnot to get that. But yeah,
some people just might want Tony's badonk, and I totally understand. But you have to understand as well that it's already taken. It's already spoken for.
It's true.
It's pre-ordered. It's shipped, signed, sealed, and delivered, all at the same time.
Speaking of the Mrs. Angie says hello.
Hello, Angie. Is she glowing as always?
She is. She's resting up. She just got back from a trip to Hudson Valley, visiting some friends up there.
Nice. I'm going to be going to the Hamptons for President's Day weekend.
Want to talk to Hampton?
Yep. Yep. Oh man, I'm like nervous and excited about it. But I think I'm gonna have a good time.
Yeah. Is this for work or?
No. This is with my girlfriend.
Ooh, lovely.
Yeah.
I gotta come visit you down in DC.
Please do. There's a dodo in the White House that's been showing up on eBird lately.
That's funny.
Thank you. It's my go-to joke. It's my go-to DC joke. And actually, I do regular bird walks on the Capitol. On Capitol Hill I get some good birds. I get some good stories too because it's always a great time.
Yeah, DC is an interesting city. It has a large park as well. Rock Creek Park is pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and it's neat because it's like goes like right through downtown, more or less. Or like I don't know about downtown, but I remember I went there for a work training, and I like walked down the strip, and like next thing I was at this cafe or whatever, and I started walking, and I like crossed over the park, and I was like, oh wow, that's cool. So that's
and by the strip, you don't mean the National Mall, right? You wouldn't call the National Mall the strip.
I call a strip whatever anything that has a bunch of or like in Philly the Avenue or whatever, like anything
like a business corridor.
Yeah, but I call a strip specifically something where there's like bars.
Oh, okay.
If there's bars, you know what I mean? Like cafes and bars. I call that the strip.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Just making sure you weren't calling the National. Yeah, I was walking around the strip. There was museums and stuff. I was looking for coffee. Oh man. But yeah, I do have some new adventures out here in DC. I play in a flag football league now, and we had practice last Sunday, and immediately everyone identifies me as the bird guide because while we're practicing and running drills, I'd be like 3 mallards. 2 mil. And they'll be like, what? And I won't repeat what I said. I just like stop whatever I'm doing and just like observe the bird. And they're starting to get into it. I can tell that they're starting to dig it. Nice. That they're just like, he's the bird guy. And then we got to see one red-tailed hawk kind of fly over where we were. And we practice on the National Mall. So like the monument's right there. The White House, unfortunately, is occupied with people whose opinion I find ill-informed.
Yeah.
But it's just nice feeling like you are somewhere where things happen, especially for folks that are, like me, who've moved around a whole lot, and I've always found something to appreciate where I'm at, and most of the time I'm appreciating it because I feel present in it. And birding on the mall in DC is just one of those moments.
Yeah, DC is cool. I mean, I wish it wasn't like it's one of those places where I love Philly. I expect to live in Philly my whole life, but if there was ever a city, the city most easy for Angie and I to relocate to would probably be DC.
That's reasonable. Yeah, that's very reasonable.
I mean, like financially, it would be horrible because it's one of the most expensive cities, and we're from one of the most affordable large cities. So, like,
yes, that is true. Also, in DC, everyone on the escalator stands on the right, walks on the left. That level of civility and organization is just, it's almost a work of art.
Yeah, it's interesting.
As much as I love Philly, because I'm from Philly as well. I don't think Philly could ever do that, unfortunately. I don't see it.
Yeah, because I work in government now, and I assume as a chance, I mean, it's municipal government. I assume there's a chance I could work in a parks department or something down in TC, or even there's also state. Well, not state. I guess it's only municipal because it's own
district,
right? Its own district. So there's no. And it's one and the same. So I couldn't work for the state. I could only work for DC, or I could work for federal government.
Natural Park Service is everywhere.
Yeah, and Fish and Wildlife Services offices there too. I don't know how much they're hiring these days, but it's also headquarters of every nonprofit, and I think this is a good chance. But Angie works in transportation, so obviously for her, DC is. There's a lot of where she could work down in DC.
I mean, and if not DC, Baltimore.
Yeah.
But it's almost. I know that they want to do more. They want to. I've been hearing talks about some type of project that would connect via one train stop, DC to Baltimore.
That'd be lovely.
That would be quite a thing. So. I know that there's a lot of potential energy in transportation infrastructure for Baltimore. Something about I was going to mention the botanical gardens.
I love them. I've been there. It's great.
That's actually where I do most of my birding in DC, by the botanical gardens and this park right by one of the congressional offices, Rayburn House. It's a house office, but it's Bethalde Park, and there I have consistently, during the right part of the season, I have consistently gotten cardinals, goldfinches, mockingbirds, blue jays, wren, and a song sparrow, and those are like I think really great beginner birds, because often when I'm doing that bird walk, I'm with first time birders, and it's just like a really great way for them to see so many different sizes, so many different colors, so many different behaviors, even like all together in just one spot that's right by their office. It's just like, oh, this is very convenient. Like this is, that's the pleasure of birding. Absolutely.
We're close to. We're about 10 minutes away from an hour. I think we should keep this to an hour. But it's funny for us is we're also just catching up too. But so we kind of got to the point where we got our spark birds. We got through meeting at your high school, and then you eventually got into. Well, you came to work for me.
Yeah. So like I was a part of the program,
and then you worked for me again.
Yeah, exactly. And then I got everyone moved out. It was expected to move out of the program when you age out, you go to college. I stayed in Philly to go to college, and I got promoted to work on the assistant manager level with Tony and Dan, where I would help recruit the same students and help with the program. And then we moved on from that project because I think the contract wasn't given to us, or however that works.
No, I had to dissolve it when I got when I got hired.
Yeah, when you ascended.
Because I can't. When I was contracting I was contracting to a municipal agency, and then I got hired by a different municipal agency.
Yeah, that's right.
And so I'm not allowed to hold a contract as a and get a salary. So I had to dissolve it. And then a year later, or less than a year later, we were looking for some seasonal summer help, and you came and worked for us for a summer.
Yep.
And that was
such a great summer, man. That was ridiculously fun. I think that it really tops my experience as an educator. Doing it in Philly, doing it in Wissahickon, and then doing it with you, obviously, made it all the world. And
then you worked for the Alliance for Watershed Education too, right?
Yeah, that is correct. So I then continued to be an environmental educator, but I was more community organizer based as well, because there was a big project happening in North Philly. You may have heard of it. It's called the Discovery Center. If anyone's ever passing through Philly and they're looking for where are some green spots? Where are some great parks? Where are some environmental assets besides the Rocky Steps and a cheesesteak? Don't go to Pat's and Gino's. I have to throw that in, by the way. But I just want to recommend the Discovery Center, which is in Fairmount Park East Fairmount Park, if you will. That is, it's now a year old. It's a year and a couple months old now. And, that I think that's the new home for environmental education in North Philadelphia. And, if you stop by, the reservoir's open. You can see a lot of great birds. I'm not there enough to know what all the rare birds have been, but
especially there is canvasbacks in the winter.
Okay,
it's like the best spot to see canvasbacks in the city. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have to just throw that out there as a great destination for those who are interested. But since then, working with the Alliance for Watershed Education, I then got hired to work in DC at this big environmental.
But not to cut you off, but to get more out of you, because sometimes when you're talking about yourself, you might leave details out. Yeah. And I want to make you got hired for your job in DC because you have political experience.
Oh yeah,
and we skipped that. So why don't you bring us back to your political experience?
So the political experience in some ways started, I don't know if it's fully relevant, but in some ways it started when I was at Temple University and I worked on Temple student government campaigns, and I was successful in those campaigns. But I think what one of the big early highlights were I got to work for a local state representative as an environmental policy advisor based on my experience as an environmental educator that I had with Tony. And I did that for about 2.5 years. And then I started working on an electoral campaign for another friend of mine that was running for state rep in a different district. And that, by doing that, I was very heavily involved with the political environmental scene in Philly, especially in the lens of environmental justice and not just sustainability.
Lovely. And then, so your experience working for 2 different state.
One was a state representative, like district office. So one, I was on the administration side, but the other one was strictly electoral. And at that time, he was only a candidate. He wasn't running for re-election or anything. This was the freshman. He's doing a great job, by the way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've heard good things.
Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah, but it has been quite a journey, hasn't it? I mean, I think my environmental leadership even has been shaped by what our experiences have been through the ebb and flows of being in the field.
Yes, indeed. Absolutely. So I think we're at a good spot for this one.
Yeah, because I want to cover more connections between your history as a punk rocker and birds. And I think a magazine wrote about you. A certain magazine wrote about you.
Yeah.
We might bring that up again.
Well, I guess we could just talk about that briefly, because I guess we kind of
leave a cliffhanger.
Since we're talking about intros, and we shouldn't focus on intros and who we are the next episode. So yeah, back to me. I was in am in a punk rock band. It's a band. We had an active period of about 8 years from 1999 till 2007. We've been on hiatus ever since, but my voice is hoarse right now a little bit, and that's not a coincidence. So I don't know what's going to come of that, but we've been just making some music again as friends, and we don't have any plans to play live, but we might record some of this. But the band didn't break up because we weren't friends. We broke up because we wanted to focus on other things. That band was called Rambo. It was a punk band, put 2 albums out, a couple singles, toured 35 countries and 5 or 6 continents, depends on how you count them. Yeah. No, we didn't go South America. We did Australia, Europe, Asia, North America. So I guess 4 continents, right? 4 continents.
Oh, wow. You left out Africa? That's cool.
Yeah, I'd love to go to Africa. But here's the thing with the band is we were invited to go to South America, and we declined because we wanted to go back to Southeast Asia. Because we went there, had a great time, want to see those people again, and go to a few more countries. And then I know a group or 2 have gone to Africa, but generally when you go to Africa, they're going, and people didn't know them there. They just found people who did shows in certain countries and went there. And so my thing is, I never wanted to go somewhere I wasn't invited. So in Southeast Asia, in East Asia, people invited us. They asked us to release our records locally, and like in Singapore, our record was released in in Australia, Poland, Germany, obviously the U.S., Sweden, and as well as like Thailand, Singapore, Indonesia, and Malaysia. So we wanted to go places where people knew us. Right. We didn't want to just go and be a spectacle. We wanted to go where people were our fans. So
yeah, of course.
And if had Africa reached out to us and said, please come play, Botswana or whatever, we would have absolutely done that. But that hadn't happened. So, but yes, I've since been to Africa, and I would like to go again.
Yes, you have. But in that traveling that you've done, you have been birding every single place. You did not forget your binoculars or your band.
No. Yeah. So I was in that band.
Loved it. I love how you've been able to, like, through the years of us knowing each other, share little snippets of stories of like things that have happened while you were traveling, and some of the crazy things, and some of that obviously I think will overlap with some other stories that you'll have with other guests. But anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I was just finished with the intro thing, so a little background. Besides that, I did field research in the Canadian Arctic with snow geese, and then Alaska with ducks. Did a semester in Brazil as an adult. Well, I mean, you're an adult when you're 18, but as in, like, it's funny they call you adult students, but like, you're an adult when you're 18. But I went back in my 30s and did a semester in Brazil, so did field work there as part of that for my internship. And there I had to give that university, the internship, asked me to do a lecture about Arctic field work, because I just got back from Alaska, and I did that in Portuguese, which is crazy because I barely spoke Portuguese, I could just baby talk. So that was really, really ridiculous. So then I went back to school because I had taken off like 14 years to travel and do other things, and so I went back to school, and then I got a job working at an environmental center and for a nonprofit. Then I got as a contractor, and then eventually hired by municipal government. So that's how things have worked for me. And also adjunct at Temple University, where I went to school, and Tykee went.
TU?
Yeah, and I love Temple.
Yeah, so do I. I love Temple, and I will give you my full opinions.
Yeah.
That's how much I love it. I love it so much I won't lie about it.
Yeah. I mean, it's great. I mean, I didn't like I wasn't a big fan of the environmental studies program, but I don't think it necessarily had to do with Temple. It was it was just like environmental studies wasn't right for me, but then I went to horticulture and it was right for me. So
you found your fit real well.
Yeah, because
then you went back to school.
And went to graduate school, yes, for biology at St. Joseph's.
Or a different bird school. Get that right.
Yeah.
So Temple is the owls. Go ahead.
St. Joseph's the hawks. So I like to joke that I'm a hawk owl.
Lucky son of a gun.
Northern hawk owl.
Thank you for that clarification. We always go for the scientific and common names are acceptable here, but the only common name that is unacceptable at all times is seagull. There's no such thing as a seagull. I never bring that to my life, and it makes me cringe every time I hear it.
That's funny. I'm surprised you're that snobby, Tykee, because I am all for calling them seagulls, because I don't understand. Like, when you say seagull, people know what you're talking about. And I understand there's not one particular species called seagull, but if you call the whole group of birds seagulls, it's the same thing.
Where my snobbishness comes from is I used to be, and I know it was unfortunately so, a big fan of Steven Seagal. And so anytime I hear the name, it just makes me think of that part of my life that I'd rather leave. It's a chapter of my life that I'd rather not read out loud.
Well, I hear you. Are you familiar with the comedian Tom Segura?
No, not
and do you know the comedian Bert Kreischer? No. He's famous for the machine story when he went to Russia and hung out with the Russian mob when he was in college. And Bert Kreischer always performs with no shirt on. He's a big guy. So him and Tom Segura are like best friends, and Bert Kreischer did a dance video of just him dancing to what's his name? Tattoos on his face, Post Malone. And so Tom Segura did this, like, actually hire like a choreographer and dancers and did this like rebuttal to his dance video, but he did it dressed as Steven Seagal. But like, you ever seen this? Steven Seagal has the carrot. He goes to Belarus, and I guess the president of Belarus is like showing him like their produce. So it's like Seagal with a carrot. So it is, he's wearing like it looks like he's wearing like, it's kind of like the Philly outfit. It looks like he's wearing like a Dickies shirt and Dickies shirt and pants, like the Philly tuxedo, and but it's all black. And then he has like a ponytail and like these orange glasses and like this like amulet and like a carrot. So you got to see it. It's ridiculous.
I'll be sure to look that up. Well, yeah. So I half play when I do my whole seagull shtick, but it's just a really fun way to get new birders or people that are new to birder culture interested in it, because then they're just like, oh, I'm like, no, it's a divisive issue in the birder community. Like families have been torn apart.
We're going to end on a cliffhanger.
Okay.
Because this reminds me of the bird police.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if we want to bring Mr. Ward in as a guest for the bird police story. I don't know if you can.
I would love to ask.
Yeah. I also want to do, interview him for the Urban Wildlife podcast too. I don't know if we can do like 2 in a row with him or whatever, but like, yeah. But can you do 3? Can you record a 3? Can we do a 3-way on your video? Is that possible?
I mean, that's the golden rule. Let's figure that out.
Yeah. So let's see. So we'll talk. Yeah. Maybe the next thing. Well, one of the things we'll talk about next is the bird police incident and story and whatever, and like the entrapment that this person did, and then. We'll put it in the comments or notes, but we should come up with an email address that maybe you will monitor, so people can contact us and send us questions and whatnot.
Yeah. Because I was gonna say I would love a place to centralize this, to not make it my personal social media or your personal one. Yeah, we'll figure that out.
There's gonna be one for the network, but if you want to have a personal one, if you want to have a sub one just for this particular cast, we can do that from moving forward.
Okay. All right. So also we need a logo. We got to talk to Robin.
Yeah, well, he's working on it. We actually do have a logo.
Oh, perfect. Well, then never mind. Yeah, cool.
Yeah,
let's give salutations. Salutations are greetings. What's the opposite of salutations? Farewells.
Farewells. Yes.
I was just thinking of the fancier way to say it.
Yeah.
Stay.
Bid you adieu.
Yeah, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Look for Wildlife Observer Network. because we're looking for you.
Yeah, and if you have suggestions for us to discuss for next one, we will discuss the bird sheriff or bird police. And then
that is a great topic. That is a great topic. I guarantee you.
Cool. That's exactly right up our alley too.
Yeah. All right. Well,
Alrighty.
Tony,